This is Life After the Impact. My name is Roxanne Johnson. My son's name is Jamal Bird. He was killed by DC Metropolitan Police on October 1st, 2019. I know it's been a minute, but how you doing, Latoya?
Roxanne, right. I'm like, let's get the intro going back rolling. You guys, hi, my name is Latoya Benton, and I'm the mother of Xavier Hill. Xavier was killed January the 9th, 2021, at the age of 18 by two Virginia State Troopers. Like Roxanne said, it has been a minute, you guys, and thank you for bearing with us as we kind of get our things rolling back in because life be life in. But at the same time, we have to still make sure we're still in the fight for justice. And with that being said, we got to always continue with the fight and knowing as far as education is concerned. So with
Mhm.
that being said, I want our guest speaker to introduce himself today. Alex, I'm just big to say your name, but give a brief introduction of who you are, please.
Sure. Hi, I'm Alex Vitale. I'm professor of sociology and African American studies at Brooklyn College, and also teach sociology at the CUNY Graduate Center. And I do work on community based public safety initiatives outside of the criminal legal system.
Perfect, perfect. And Roxanne, before you go into that, Professor Vitale, it is always a pleasure and an honor for you to join us. Because not only are you busy within your own schedule, but I'm a true advocate in making time for your community. No matter how busy you are, you always make time for us. So I appreciate that because again, being a man of your word means a lot when it comes to transparency and building trust within your community.
Mhm.
Roxanne, take it away.
Yeah, so Professor Vital, we had you on before. You wrote this excellent book, The End of Policing, and it really talked about, I know we got into a conversation of how we can, as community, be show up in different ways to um, really legislate or end policing and have something that's more community focused. And as we are dealing with this immigration and customization enforcement and actually and even other law enforcement type organizations who are being very doing things that are very illegal, how can we as community then have accountability from them to so that we are not being victimized by these new iterations of policing.
Well, the issue of accountability here is a tough one, right? Because as is so often the case with policing, the impunity for individual officers is really built into the model. The
Hmm.
whole point is that they not be accountable. And this is especially true when we think about what Trump is doing with federal policing, right?
Hmm.
And ultimately, in terms of accountability, this is a political problem. We're not going to fix this with a lawsuit. We're not going to fix this by disciplining some officers, right? That we have to have a wholesale rejection of the weaponization of federal law enforcement for political purposes in this way. And that's really what's going on here, right?
Mhm.
Trump is creating a lot of political theater to try to convince working class Americans that their problems are the result of immigration, of refugees, of economic migrants, not bankers, multinational corporations, and a government that doesn't seem to really care about their well being. And the ultimate solution to this problem has got to be to change that politics.
Mhm.
Right. So within the mindset of that, so let's talk about the politics of it. How do you begin to change people when they say this is not their problem? When people say, that because that what you just hit the nose on the politics of it. When people feel like this is not their problem and that's them over there, how do you fix the culture of that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important for folks to keep in mind, like, why is Trump doing this? And he's doing this so that he doesn't have to actually deliver for the rest of us. He
Mm.
doesn't have to actually worry about keeping gas prices down. He doesn't have to worry about the housing crisis. He doesn't have to worry about providing decent jobs to people. He's just going to fill the streets with police as his political tools. Today, the target is migrants, but tomorrow the target could be somebody else. You know, when he was president the first time, he had what was called Operation Relentless Pursuit. And he took 6 cities, many of them with black mayors and large black populations like Memphis and Kansas City and Baltimore. And he said, look, the problem of your city is not deindustrialization. It's not redlining of mortgages. It's not the collapse of federal support. It's not declining wages. No, the problem in that case was, you know, gangbangers and drug cartels. And what was the solution? To flood those cities with federal police, with marshals, FBI, ATF, and all the rest. And this was all done for election purposes.
Right.
And so we need to oppose what's going on here, not just as a defense of our neighbors who may have come here from other countries, as we all have, but also because this is a dangerous politicization of federal law enforcement that is never going to act in our best interest.
And not only on that too, Professor, but would you agree that a lot of times when those things begin, when they're put in place and it stays in the place, even after he might not be in office again, that's where the damage begins to happen because it's already set into place then. Was that correct to say?
Yeah, and one of the things I worry about is what's going to happen with the next couple of elections.
Exactly.
Is he going to use these new federal troops essentially to intimidate voters, especially African American voters? Right? We've already seen him supporting the wholesale disenfranchisement of black voters through gerrymandering and these court decisions and these complex voter ID laws. And so is he going to use federal police at polling stations? Is he going to call out big crackdowns in black neighborhoods on election day so that people are afraid to come out and vote? So that's another thing that people just have to be very concerned about whenever we see this kind of weaponization of law enforcement.
And I would say, in addition to, you know, the Supreme Court saying racial profiling is legal, right? So when people say, you know, well, it's not my problem because I'm here legally. Well, if a police officer decides to profile me because I look like I'm from Jamaica, right? Then I have no recourse. So yeah, it is the politicization of this.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have given a green light to racial profiling.
Yes.
And also, you know, we got a lot of trigger happy federal police officers.
Yes, we do.
Shooting at moving cars, shooting at demonstrators. So who's to say someone walking their kids to school doesn't get caught in the crossfire on something like that? The last thing we need in our neighborhoods is more people with guns shooting at each other.
Literally.
More violence. And the violence is the point, right? Because if I can frighten you into believing that, you know, if you go do this, if you try to do that, I'm going to do something to you. You know, those 3 people that were killed recently by ICE, there still hasn't been one indictment of anybody. Nobody's been held. And you know, to your point, that is the problem. But enough of the problem.
Well, I want to go back to one more thing before we move on. I like that you touched on the point about how you know, because we talk about this all the time, how they use it as a tactic to not actually fix the problems that are actually going on in the community. Right. So I think we got to always kind of keep that in mind because, like he just said, they'll put police out there. And even in the area Roxanne just mentioned with people who got killed, I guarantee we can look at it statistically and just look at the resources that the community is lacking right now and that they're still currently lacking right now. So you guys, when you're listening to the podcast or to any podcast you're listening to, be sure to make the connections as into two, because we're having this conversation to hopefully someone can understand the connections as to why this is your problem. If you
Yeah.
look around your community right now that's lacking resources, but you got more police than the resources,
Mhm.
it's your problem because your tax dollars are funding that.
That's right. If you live in a community where there's more liquor stores than there are grocery stores, that's
It's your problem.
if you live in a community where people are dumping trash indiscriminately on your curb or near your the end of your block, that's a
That's
problem.
still your problem too.
Yeah, and it's because those resources that would be usually be funded for those different things have been reassigned to the violence, to violence.
Roxanne, got one better for you. You live in a community where you have the youth who are out all times of the night but have no places to go as far as a boys and girls center,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
they have more police there to police them, that is still your problem. You can
Yes.
still go down to whatever town hall meetings, voice your concerns as far as what you want done within your community. If you're in the community and you see that the basketball hoop has been going for 15 years, but you're not going to figure out why it's not put back up again for the kids to have something to do, again, that's still your problem.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Police is not the solution.
No, policing is never the solution. But I know we talked a little bit about what the problem is. But on this podcast, we like to we like to say we about that action.
Not that
So we
action.
know we want to be solution focused. We can talk about the problems all day long, but what are some of the ways that we can move towards solving some of these issues?
So I think, in the short run, the first thing we need to do is to support our neighbors who may be at risk. So we need to, make sure that people know what their rights are, that
Mhm.
we be prepared to come out and support people who
Mhm.
may be feeling like they're under attack. And that could be very straightforward. Like, we hear ICE is in the neighborhood and somebody's kids need to be picked up from school.
Right,
How can we
right,
help with that? Or
right.
somebody might need to have some groceries delivered to the house until this chaos is over with. So what are we doing to support each other, and in the process, building solidarity among people,
That's right.
building a shared understanding and personal connection between people, because so much of the signal we get every day from popular culture, from our elected officials, is to try to tear us apart,
Yeah.
pit us
Yeah,
against each other.
yeah,
And that is not how we're going to build the political power we need to do the longer term things, which is to really change the politics around what working class people want and need.
Mm.
So, the key to the whole Trump thing has been to convince working class Americans, especially white working class Americans, that what they need is to get rid of all these immigrants, and
hmm,
that somehow this is going to magically improve their standard of living. Like,
Mhm.
somehow, if we get rid of the person washing dishes in the restaurant down the
right,
street, that they're going to be joining the middle class by taking that dishwashing job.
right.
Like, this is just ridiculous. This is all theater that is designed to cover up the fact that he has no plan
Right.
Mhm.
to make
Mhm.
the lives of working class Americans better. In
Yeah.
fact, look at gas prices. Look at the
Mm.
cost of food going up. How
Mm.
are things getting better for working people in this country? Where are all these new jobs that pay a decent wage? We're just not seeing it. What we're seeing is the corporations getting tax breaks, the more billionaires being created, and more impunity for police, prison guards, etc., who are really there to cover up these political failures. So
Mhm.
we have to, engage in a politics that points this out, that doesn't fall for this nonsense of blaming people who came more recently than we did for the country's problems,
Hmm.
when we know it's people coming here that built this country.
Right. And who's illegal on stolen land?
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, let's
Yeah.
be real. I mean, who's illegal? And to your point, not working class people and poor people, because those are the ones
Yes.
who get so impacted by all of these things. If you have a certain, you make certain dollar amount, you might feel a squeeze, but you can still buy get some of your discretionary needs met, right?
Right.
Whereas if you're a poor person or a person who's just above the margin, a working class person, you are living literally paycheck to paycheck.
I mean,
Literally.
that's so true with the increase in gas prices.
Yeah.
There's research that shows that, for wealthier people, it doesn't really change their behavior at all. But
Mhm.
for working class people and poor people, they both have to do less, and they still end up spending more money than
More
the poor.
money. Yeah.
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 Being
Yeah.
poor is costly. Being poor is
Exactly.
costly.
Yeah.
Especially in America. So, Professor, tell us this then. How do you tell one person who, when they hear the overhead of the political side that controls this, right? And they think in their brain, well, then they're not gonna listen to me. But that the power and numbers of people, right? You might have like a little ant who might have one tiny piece of food, but he's trailed behind a whole bunch of other ants that can come and take over places. The work you guys are currently doing in New York right now, let's talk about that as far as how people can get involved and just
Mhm.
one way you can get involved as far as putting those plans into action.
Yeah. So, to go back to the kind of like two approaches, on the one hand, anyone can get involved in mutual aid work, protecting their neighbors, providing support for people, right? That you don't have
Mhm.
to be part of some huge organization. It doesn't take a million people going to a lot of meetings, right? That's just making sure that you're connected to the folks in your community, and you're available, that there's a phone network, that you're on an email thread, in your very own neighborhood, on your block, things like that.
Mhm.
But we also need to think about political power. Um, I mean, this is very much under threat, but still at the local level, there is a lot of influence we can have through things like voting.
That's right.
But also, we need to, we can't limit our politics to voting every 4 years. We have to be engaged in other ways. Mutual aid is a way to do that, but I think also we need to look at political clubs, political organizations that we could be part of, and also to be more active in our unions. For those of
Mhm.
us who are fortunate enough to be in one,
Mhm.
that these unions are often capable of exerting some muscle, and it would be nice if they did more than just try to get us another 2% in the next contract or fight a grievance, but that they took on more of the concerns for the community. That's what happened in Chicago with the teachers union.
Mm.
Is they said, you know what, we're going to be a community union, a social union. We're going to really work in conjunction with the parents, with the students, for a broader agenda to improve conditions in Chicago, not just to fight to get a bigger paycheck.
Mhm.
And that is where the new mayor came out of, Brandon Johnson. He came out of that struggle, and he's trying to return that back to the community. And so, revitalizing our unions, broadening their political agenda, I think, is another powerful thing we could do for those who are in that position.
Mhm.
So I hear what you're saying, to be involved. A lot of times we can't complain about things that we're not actually involved in. One thing I learned this semester, we were talking about the farm workers strike
Mm,
and how they wasn't necessarily working. I mean, of course they're working for better wages, but it was a bigger goal they're working for. And it's like I think we got to kind of get outside of self and look at the bigger goal of the actual community. Taking care, getting back. Me and Roxanne say it all the time. Getting back to the essence of going next door to borrow a cup of sugar without getting talked about on social media. Just protecting your community,
yeah.
building that essence of community, and being concerned about your community and not just the address you pay taxes on, because you should be concerned about what's going on within your overall community. We say it all the time about the local stuff, right? So Professor just said it as well, you guys. You gotta stay involved too locally to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Roxanne, you want to chime in on that?
Well,
Yes.
let me just add something. I'm sorry, Roxanne, but
No,
just,
no, no.
let's not forget what Martin Luther King was doing when he was killed. He was out supporting a sanitation strike,
Yeah.
See?
Black sanitation workers, right? So
Right,
you mentioned the farm workers strike. These things were part of larger movements for
right,
liberation, not
right.
just getting another 2% on your pension.
It's
So we need to make those connections.
Yeah.
Professor, that goes back to the education of it. So I think if people have to understand and realize the civil rights movement was not just, it wasn't just like just black people within civil rights. It goes way beyond that. But I think, what people are taught in school versus what them going beyond their own education. You have to actually still educate yourself beyond the 12th grade once you got out of school still.
And what we're seeing is the dumbing down of America because people will not read. They will
No,
they will prefer to get on social medias and listen to a 2-minute TikTok. Nothing against those, but those are not to be, your only educational tools. But I wanted to ask you, Professor, what's going on in New York City that we want to know, and how
Yeah.
we kind of maybe duplicate some of that stuff in our community.
Yeah, since we last talked, we have a new mayor in New York, Zoran Mamdani, and he asked me to serve on his transition team
wow.
after the election to help with the work of creating a new Department of Community Safety that is independent of police and courts and jails. And so he has begun that process. He's created a mayoral office and appointed a deputy mayor, and they're hiring staff. And I continue to work with them on a daily basis on trying to move this in the right direction and get the kind of political support for it that's needed. It's going to do things like provide civilian mental health crisis response tied into 911 so that families in crisis don't just get an armed police officer when
That's
they
right.
when what they need is help.
That's right.
It's going to expand community-based anti-violence work through
Yeah.
our crisis management system, which is using community-based organizations that hire people from the community to work with those young people at greatest risk of involvement in violence, to try to in real time mediate conflicts, talk people down, and then in the long run try to provide them with essential crisis stabilization services. What do they need? Mental health support, housing support, employment support, educational support, and try to connect them directly with the services that would help stabilize them so
Right.
that their risk of involvement in violence goes down.
That's right.
It's going to include things like reducing gender-based violence, domestic violence, hate crimes. So we're really taking on a big portfolio of things and bringing a new approach that says that the solution to all our problems is not to send people with guns or to carry out more punishment. It's to really think about providing for people's basic needs to put them in a more stable place so that violence and other kinds of harms become less likely.
One of the
Beautiful.
key things you said just now that I really like was just the use of the mental health teams.
Mm.
I've read so many cases recently where somebody has gotten shot by the police, and then we'll go look, we'll go research to see was there any kind of like mental health agency that was in the area, right? And there's always, or not always, but 9 out of 10, there's some kind of agency that's supposed to be in the area that was never called. So it's like, what's the point of having them in place if y'all not gonna call them? So again, I appreciate having someone to actually implement the steps and not just put it on paper.
Yeah.
That's my whole thing. We don't need somebody to say, hey, you're gonna have an agency in place. Okay, so when someone has a mental health crisis, call the agency and let that person shouldn't die from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we need is a kind of an integrated system where people have their sort of role to play within it. So a lot of these agencies that might provide mental health services at the neighborhood level, they don't have that mobile crisis response capacity.
Mm.
They can take people and help them when they show up, but they're not set up for that mobile outreach. So
Mhm.
we need something that's integrated into 911 that's available
Right.
24 hours a day,
Right.
but we also need a place to take people that isn't the jail or the hospital.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we do need those community service providers to be a place that we can take people.
Mhm.
And we need different levels, right?
Different
Because some
levels of it.
people's
Yes.
problems are more acute, more challenging than other people's problems. But by and large, what we found is that sending them to the hospital, for most people, it's just not the right place. And it
Mhm.
might even make the situation worse.
Worse.
Yeah.
Right. Because if I
And
don't need that, you're gonna might call and have PTSD now because
yeah,
I don't need to be there.
that's right. And it's hugely expensive to take people to a hospital emergency department. We
Mhm.
could spend that money much more efficiently through less intensive care at the neighborhood level.
Mhm. So what I'm hearing is compassionate community care.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, not punishment and
Not
intimidation.
and violence
Yeah.
and violence, because yeah, them guys, and maybe we retool some of those police vans. I'm just saying, we don't need them. We don't need them. Change them into some
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
agree.
we don't need them. And and I know this sound, as I'm sitting here listening to this, in our, people who may be listening to this later may seem, it seems overwhelming. It might seem very overwhelming to us, right?
Mhm.
But what I would invite you to think, when there's a proverb that says when you're eating an elephant, you have to do it one chunk at a time. And so just deciding that, yeah, my chunk is going to be, I'm going to participate in some mutual aid in my community. I'm going to get involved with that. Or my chunk
Mhm.
might be, I'm going to show up at the next school board meeting where they're talking about
Exactly.
being
School
put more
safety issues.
resources,
Yeah.
put more resource
Hmm.
officers in the school, so our children can't even get educated because they're going to be, intimidated by these resource officers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So deciding, just take a little chunk, just a little piece, and go from there. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I think
I
that's the
like that. Yeah.
yeah. Just take a little chunk. Everybody can do something.
And we have models out there of things we could be doing. We for so long people in the neighborhood have been given this kind of false hopeless choice of like, if you have a problem, you can either have more police or you can have nothing.
Right. And that's what
And
they think.
so what we're trying to do in New York is give people another choice.
Right.
Yes, yes. And I like the way, I was reading about when the potholes were an issue. And so they hire people in the community to actually fill the potholes. So you making money, you making a
And
little bit
shovel
of money.
snow, and yeah.
No, the same thing, the snow removal. Well, we got 30 people. You need a job, we're gonna pay you $30 an hour, whatever.
Move the snow. Yeah.
Remove the snow. So yeah, you make it more community centered as opposed to treating community like they're the enemy. They're
The
the problem.
enemy.
Yeah,
Yep.
Right.
we're not the
Yep.
problem.
Right.
We're not the enemy. As a matter of fact, we're funding when you think about that you're funding all of these initiatives, at these, especially these violent initiatives at this national federal policing. It's just ridiculous that my tax dollars are going to fund something that I'm absolutely opposed to.
That's opposed. So, what Roxanne, so I say this then, you're opposed, most people are opposed to those things. So, I challenge people this week and the weeks beyond this
Yeah.
to get to know your neighbor. Get to
Yes.
know your neighbor. And not just your neighbor across the street, get to know your neighborhood. The
Yes.
issues within your neighborhood, like Professor Vitale said earlier, start locally. And that should start where you live at. The problems that you identify within your own local neighborhood, start there. Choose your chunk. Choose your chunk of what you need to focus on and start from right there. You ain't got to take the whole block, But start with the pothole that might be right down the street and figure out how to get that fixed. But start with your own community. And I feel like if we can kind of just get back to the generation of caring about not just our house where you live at, but the block you stay on, 10 miles from down the road, kind of building back the culture of taking care of us as a people. Let's get
Mhm.
back to doing that. So I challenge y'all this week to get to know your neighborhood.
Yeah. Can I offer something else?
Let's
Since
go.
you care so much about the house you live in, you need to care about the block it's on, the district that it resides in, the county that it is in, the state that is in, who controls the legislator in that state. If you care so much about the house that you live in, because I know some people, they kind of
They care about the house so
they
much.
silo thinking. But let's just offer something different. You care about your house and what's going on in your house and what's going on with the people in your house. Then that means that you must care about what goes on outside your house. Because
You
eventually,
must care.
yeah, you must.
You
Because
must care.
eventually, it's gonna come to your door some kind of way.
Oh, guess what? No, it's already at your door. It's already at your door some kind of
It's
way.
already at your door.
It's
You
already
just
at your door. And
ignore it.
like you said earlier, they put things in distractions like the police or whatnot to distract us from those things.
Yeah.
Red line and these gas prices. There's no reason why right now we're paying almost $5 a gallon for unleaded gas. We're not talking about the premium stuff. This the supposed to be the cheap stuff.
These are
Right?
these are these are definitely man-made problems. And so if they're man-made problems, we can definitely fix them. But it requires us to act in community. No longer acting like, it's just me. No, it's
Right.
us. It's us. Today is fuel, tomorrow it might be water.
It's already full. No, it's fueling groceries today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So come on.
Come on. All right. Thank you.
Professor, any closing words for us before we wrap this thing up today?
Well, just a pleasure to be in conversation with you, and it's such an important message you're sending out today, and happy to do what I can.
Yeah.
So, as always, it's a pleasure to always speak with you guys. I'm gonna let Roxanne close this out, but I'm gonna just say real fast again. I task you to not just to get to know the neighbor across the street, but get to know your neighborhood. Figure
Mhm.
out what's going on at your not just your kids' school and make time. My mom used to always tell me people make time for what they want. People like to use the excuse of their 9 to 5 job and stuff like that. But if you actually care about your home that you purchase and you actually going on that 9 to 5 job every single day to take care of that house, you should care about what's going on within your community. And we're not talking about just as far as like the taxes, but the people who are running those things as well. You need to be in tune with what's going on a political spectrum also. Roxanne, close us out.
Yeah, absolutely. So don't forget to like, share, and support us. We are building a system that we are very proud of, community oriented, right? Legal system. We want everyone to be involved with this. So please like, share, and comment if you care to. Go
One
ahead.
thing before you, I was gonna that was close. Can you mention the things we have coming up
Oh
before
yeah.
you
Oh
close
yeah.
us out, please? Thank you.
We have a mini camp coming up for Zay Day. That's going to be June the 19th,
Well,
20.
that's the weekend of Juneteenth, but before that, we got Donnell's Day.
Oh,
Remember?
oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, May the 29th.
Yeah, it's towards the end of the month. We'll put the
Yeah,
flyer up online as
we'll put the
well.
flyer up online. Yeah, so we have Donnell's Day on May the 29th, but then we have in June we have a couple of things, including Zay Day. We have Juneteenth. We're going to be down in the Hampton Roads, Virginia area. Come check us out, right? We'll have some fun, but we'll also do some education because we always want to educate whatever we're doing. Um,
Yeah.
this has been Life After the Impact. Don't just sit with your head in the sand. Get out in your community and find out how you can get involved. Till next time, peace.